All right, folks, we are back in the office from our latest field trip. This time we were looking at soil sampling, excavation, remediation, and here to tell us about all of the interesting things that we're going to see from that field trip is Matt Ormrod.
Why y'all dressed up?
I just came back from the field.
That was weeks ago.
I don't know that. So Matt and I are going to take a look at some of the footage I got to give you a sense of what it is that HRP does when we're out in the field. All right, Matt, can you tell us a little bit about the client and about the site that we're going to be seeing?
So this client brought us in because their property was a former dry cleaner. We also knew that the property was a former landfill, which could potentially complicate the process of remediation, which in this case involved the removal, excavation of chlorinated solvent impacted soil.
So what did we see in the opening there?
We're seeing them cut the concrete floor with an electric concrete saw. It's equipped with wet suppression to keep the dust levels down.
So what are we seeing here with this line?
They are spray painting a line so that they have a straight cut for the excavation limits. So you see the floor is wet and fans are going now that the floor is wet. And in order to get the soil out of the ground, we have to break it up into pieces throughout the whole excavation area we just saw. So here we are doing a preliminary screening for volatiles. It's an active area, so we wanted to make sure we were minimizing vapor volatilization risks. So here's the initial debris in the stockpile.
And so this is what, more water suppression?
Correct, water suppression.
Okay. And is this much more ventilation?
This is more ventilation here. So you see this bucket. We're at the beginning of the excavation now, and we're using this bucket since it's a smaller machine, but we're running into some resistance because of just how much junk there is down there. Not easy digging.
So is this like a buggy thing here?
Yeah, so we had to shuttle the soil in and out of the building, and this was the fastest and most efficient way to get it out.
So what are you guys doing in this right here?
We are preliminary sampling volatile organic compounds in the soil.
So what is all this stuff that is down in there? Were you guys expecting to see that?
No, actually, these are footings and pipes that were not marked out in our utility clearance. Those are things you got to be prepared for when you dig. Luckily, HRP staff and CES guys were on point and caught these things, so thankfully there were no issues.
So what is this tarp thing that we're seeing there?
So during the excavation, we found an unknown hotspot, and we wanted to cover it as soon as we identified it with the tarp. As soon as there was an odor detected, we stopped work, had to screen it with the PID, called our health and safety officer. We came back the next day with the 4-gas meter to make sure it was just volatiles, and were able to determine that the next morning the vapors had subsided. We added an extra fan and swept the area to make sure nothing migrated. When you're excavating, you're always running into obstacles and issues that require you to be prepared, follow your HASP. It just goes to show you that not everything is going to be easy, and you always need to be ready for those issues.
So what are these holes here that we're seeing?
So these holes are our initial confirmatory sidewall samples, which demonstrate compliance with the remedial standards. The lab provides us bottleware specific to the parameters we're looking for, which lets them test for specific VOCs, in this case tetrachloroethylene, trichloroethylene being the primary ones. So the vial with the red cap is preserved with methanol, which kills the soil bacteria. The white caps are preserved with deionized water.
Which preserves the sample?
Correct, which preserves the samples.
Gotcha. See, I know my stuff too. Picked up a few things out there, folks.
So you can see here the bucket is going down. You can see how shiny the teeth are. We had to decontaminate the bucket prior to sampling since we determined that we would need the bucket to obtain the samples. So here we're picking through the sample that the excavator bucket brought back up. There were a lot of rocks in it. The lab can't take the rocks, and we're making general observations about what we're seeing. So here we're at the sampling station. We're screening for VOCs with the PID as we collect our sample.
All right, well, that's what we got for the day, but there's a lot more to come from this project. Can you tell us a little bit about, like, long-term, what's going to happen at this site?
So eventually we're going to get to a point where we have clean sidewall samples. We're going to close up the excavation, backfill it with clean material. We're going to restore the concrete floor. And in this specific project, we're going to install a remediation system to deal with any remnant volatile organic compounds in the ground.
All right, well, Matt, thanks for joining us. And audience, thanks for joining us as well on this little field trip. If you learned something today about how HRP operates, make sure to subscribe to see more content of this kind. Hit the like if you liked, and hit the bell for notifications. We will see you in the next video. Matt, thanks as always.
Had fun.
I will. Hats off to you, bud. All right, bye everybody.